Well, hello there. It is LinkedIn Live time with Jim Becker. I just wanted to say, hope you had a great weekend. And I've got some really good things I just want to talk to you about. And that's really just really turning failure into success. Far too often, we really get caught up in failure and we beat ourselves up over it. I'm not really sure why we do that. I think we do that because that was the way that we were brought up. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe someone can bring some insight and relativity to exactly what we're talking about today. I did have a great opportunity being at BGSA down in Palm Beach, Florida. It was great, great time to be had by all. And our CFO, Tim, and I were down there with our beautiful significant others, and it was great. It was great just to really get an opportunity to see what's going on out there in the world, and it was good. It was really good. Now I'm down in Scottsdale, Arizona, and watching the sun fall down in front of the mountain, and it's beautiful. Did I say snow? I did say snow, right? Normally I'd want to say sun, but there is no sun. So today I really want to talk about failure, right? And how we turn that failure into success. There's no doubt about it. Everyone, every single person, including myself, fails at some point in time when we are learning something new or even just going through our normal routines. And plenty of times we fail more than once at the same thing. But it's how are you going to let it defeat you that really matters, right? Are we giving up, or are we keep trying until we get it? See, there's a lot that falls between the two ears that we have. It's called our brain. And as we move forward as entrepreneurs or as employees at every single level, see, we aren't always successful the first, the second, or even the third time around. But a successful entrepreneur never gives up. See, Becker Logistics is successful today, but in 1997, there were times, things that just didn't go the way that I wanted them to go. But with determination, here we are, several years later. See, failure is a fundamental element to our success. It's not something you should feel ashamed of or feel like like you've done something wrong. See, it's important to shift your perspective of failure and value it, because when we fail, we start learning how to actually succeed. I have some tips that I really want to share and think that they will help each and every one of you. See, they surely helped me throughout the years. And, one thing I just wanted to point out is I started this back in 2019. I started doing this, how would you say, social promise, to really just give back what I've dealt with over the last 25 years of running Becker Logistics and being the CEO. And I want to give this to you, each and every one of you, wherever you are in the world. See, the first thing is to really just acknowledge failure. First things first, like Stephen R. Covey said, first things first. Don't try to ignore failure or pretend it just didn't happen. Because it did. Failure happens each and every time. If you failed at something, then you failed. Mark it down that you failed. Don't dwell on what happened, but also don't just push it under the rug, right? And continue doing what you're doing. Because what ends up happening is it's going to come back and bite you really, really hard. Also, you can't go back in time and change it, right? It's not Back to the Future. We're not playing that movie. So by dwelling on that failure, that you're just wasting your time. No one is perfect. I mean, no one is perfect. There's a lot of people that I look up to as mentors. They fail also, and everyone makes mistakes. Remember this, Failure doesn't define you as a person. Acknowledge what happened and learn from it. Use it to change your strategy, change your trajectory, right? Evaluate your failures. Next, it's so important to really evaluate. Now that you're not dwelling in your failure, because that's just going to sink you down further and further. It's like holding on to a big boulder in a lake and you're just going to drown. That's dwelling in your failures. You can't try to figure out where you went wrong and what happened. Why did you fail? Go over the events step by step to really see what led up to your actual failure. And it might not be easy to identify exactly where you made a mistake that actually led to your failure. So talk to someone. Let them take a look at what you've identified so far in your outline of that failure. Two heads are actually better than one in most situations. And going through the events that led up to this, they might be able to help you really figure out what actually went wrong. And sometimes you may be part of the problem. And part of the reason to get to the solution is because you may not want to really see where you failed. And having someone else, remember, two heads are better than one, having someone else looking at and being a stand for you, an accountability partner, if you will, really helps you identify what happened or what didn't happen. See, failing isn't embarrassing. And talking about failures will not only help you, but your colleagues and team members can learn from your mistakes as well. And you could be teaching them through your mistakes. See, sharing your stories is so important. Everyone can look at a leader of a company and just say, wow, they are so successful. But in reality, the leader or the owner or that person in the executive position of every company has failed a lot before they got to the point where they were successful. I had a great opportunity of talking to some really bright individuals in the intermediary world and asset-based world. And I hold these people in high regard. And when talking with them, it's pretty interesting that we've all dealt with failures. But it's not the first topic of conversation when having a good in-depth conversation. It's not like, hey, let me tell you about my last 5 failures. There's something about ego and everything else that we want to really talk about the good things. And it takes a while to really get to the negative things. See, when you talk to your colleagues or team members, or even people outside of your industry or in your industry that work at another company, it's important to talk about the failures you went through. See, when mistakes happen, and you made those mistakes happen, or you saw a mistake, you make along the way, see, they shape you. They shape how things are done. Those failures that made you who you are today. Just look at that and look back. It's really interesting just to look at those. That's what you should be talking about to them, right? Because instead of having them identify these failures all again for themselves, use these as examples. For example, there's tons of successful salespeople out there, and there's a lot of unsuccessful salespeople out there as well. See, the successful ones can talk highly about how they closed a huge deal, but when they first started out, really started out, do you think they had that same success? I can tell you in most cases, no, they didn't. See, salespeople get hung up on emails and calls being blocked, prospects that are stringing them along, and so much more. See, deals fall through all the time. It's not easy to cold call, especially when you are the first one to start out, right? And no one knows you or doesn't know your company. I can see that in a lot of situations. But all of your failures along the way will eventually land you success by talking about the paths that you took and should have avoided. It will lead, better yet, it will shed light and help with future decisions with your team or colleagues or even the other competitors that you have. See, it's really bringing people to that next level of collaboration because no one knows that path of failure because most people just avoid talking about it. But all of your failures along the way will eventually lead to success. It really will. So, what's a good time? Time is the best teacher. So now that you're acknowledged and you acknowledge your own failure, right? And figured out what actually happened, learning from it really helps. It's now important to realize that not every idea that comes to mind will actually work out. Take time to really organize your thoughts. We have so many passive thoughts of how something could be done. And sometimes we're so quick to jump to end the conversation, like this is dragging out too long. We've been working on this for 2 months, right? And we want to hurry up and get done with it. Slow down, organize all those thoughts. Take that one thought that you created and make that your created thought so that you can see what you actually did wrong or what you could do to avoid, a misstep. Learn how to prevent it from happening again in the future and next time and next time. And maybe you could attempt that same task again with a better, broader, more knowledgeable attack. Make a game plan to include what you learned from the previous failed attempts. See, sometimes when you have to rethink and replan how you will approach something another time around, see, remembering that you will need to embrace the change. Most of us avoid change, and change is exactly where you need to be. See, some people hate change. They really do. They dread change and get caught up in their own ways, their own perspective. Because in their own mind, they're right 100% of the time, maybe even 1,000 times. But if something isn't going your way, it will be necessary when you embrace this change. See, you also will be encouraging a healthy mental growth and development for yourself and your team. So even through failure, that failure may feel like you've lost. I lose every day. I fail each and every day. It's truly going to end up as a win-win situation along the way if you don't give up. So don't just give up before you even tried. A lot of us just give up. Let's see if we have any comments, questions, or concerns in here. Let's see. I have Josh Ledford. When was the last time you failed at something? Today? Actually, yeah, it was today. It was pretty interesting. I'm down here in Scottsdale, and there's certain things that I need to do when closing up the house when I go back to Chicago. And there's certain things I failed at, and it was evident as soon as I got here. And I'm not going to go into details, but it's something as minute as that. And then I have to actually come up with different thoughts, passive thoughts, organize them. I did that, and then identified this is the best way to go ahead and do it based on either a mode or a mu. And I take that and I apply it. So thank you very much, Josh. I appreciate that. I fail every day. Now, that is something that I love seeing because that's authentic. Being as authentic as possible about who you are, what you see, what you're doing. I've found that we lie to ourselves a lot. We lie to ourselves a lot all the time, and we self-mutilate ourselves too. Identify where that's happening for yourself And you'll start learning how to overcome these things. It's a great TED talk I'm kind of working on right now, putting that information together, because it was a self-discovery I found for myself. Where am I lying to myself? Where are we, right? You too. Where are you lying to yourself? And where are we self-mutilating ourselves? The life that we actually created usually happens when we're in a defaulted world, right? Our defaulted future that we're living into instead of living into a created world. I have another one here. I fail almost every day and want to get out of this mode. Good. The first step is right now, today. Take an opportunity and write down all the things that you failed at lately. It could be your work, it could be your marriage, your partnership, it could be working out. Maybe it's that New Year's resolution you said you were going to do each and every day and you failed to do that. Identify that, identify where that went wrong for each one of them. Do this on an Excel document. The problem was, I failed at my marriage. Okay. Next thing is reasons why. What led up to that? And you'll start seeing that and start documenting that, and you'll see a whole new shift for yourself. And that will get you out of that mode. Jason, I remember back around 2008 when Becker Logistics had about 8 employees. Yes. It wasn't that little. 2008, I think we had more than that. I want to say we had 20, but about that, I could see that. Amazing to see how far you've brought things since. Thanks, Jason. Really do appreciate it. Jason handles insurance for companies, and he's awesome at what he does, and great entrepreneur there. Thank you for your time. Failure is the ability to learn. It isn't to keep you. Failure is the ability to learn. It isn't to keep you. I like that, right? And keeping yourself into comfort, right? That's what I got out of that. Dare to fail and start to plan not to fail. Well, listen, if you fail, if you start planning, if you don't plan, you will fail, right? Come up with a plan, know that you're going to fail within that own plan, and identify where you could fail inside that plan. And always, Murphy shows up. Sorry for all the people out there with the first name or last name is Murphy, but Murphy will show up and you will fail. So identify when that happened, and also have someone else responsible to identify where failures could happen. What's not being said, what's not being uncovered, right? Have someone as an integrity aspect of that. I love these comments because it dives down a little bit more outside of just what we just talked about. Wow, a lot of comments today. Let's see, Jackson here. You will fail in the process of being successful. It is the teaching and the preparation of success. Yes, it is. But must become mind stuck in the circumstances and the situation. Yeah. And so many times we dwell on something for so long of what didn't work or what someone said or what I didn't do. It's almost like we were raised by a parent that think about what you did wrong for the rest of your life. Right? It's almost like that. I don't think they did that. I know I was told to think about what I did wrong, but I don't think for the rest of my life. But we put ourselves in our own imprisonment, right? So be careful on that. Failure is the best motivation, and experience is the best teacher. I love that. That's a great quote. Thanks a lot, Sid. Becky James, you are right on that. Thank you. I appreciate that, Becky. It's a process, and time is all we need. Yeah. And time is illusion, right? It's totally an illusion. It's just something that we use as we go along. Know that when you fail, you have a choice to change your narrative. Oh, I love that. what is your narrative? So most people don't know what their narrative is. And then we start accumulating our narrative by what other people say or what the media says, right? I try not to listen to the media because I don't want to get caught up into what I'm going to say. I want to be creating my own thoughts, my own perspective on what I see, hear, and be. Nice. I like that. Agree 100%. I plan long term, and that always works out. It sure does. Thank you very much. So, with all that being said, I just want to say thank you very much. All of you have really brought everything to the table in the forefront that really makes for a good conversation here. So, for most people, failure makes them unmotivated, right? But for people with the right mindset, it's the one thing that can kick start you into the next success. See, failure is not final, and a lot of people make failure a final destination. It's not final. And when you can really backtrack through your mistakes and learn from them, you'll come up on the top almost each and every time. Probably higher than you actually thought in the first place, because you're negotiating along the way. It will remind you that not every idea that comes from a passive thought is the best one to make a creative thought. See, ideas that come into the mind is great. You'll have a great one that comes in, and all of a sudden that great idea comes into your mind. It's a creative thought. And the moment that great one comes in as well will help you filter through your other ideas, right? About how that's going to work and other ideas that might be on top of that. Use past mistakes to make new game plans along the way, and make sure that only acting on the ideas that look most promising for success. Sometimes we just want to take that one idea and run with it. Make sure that you have some probability on it. It's not just a possibility. They're all possibilities. What's the probability on each one that is actually going to happen? And then maybe if you're dealing with other people, they may not see that they could do that next thing that you're asking them to do. No one wants to fail, but it is essentially necessary for any success to actually happen. So if you think you're going to go out there alone or with a team and you're not going to fail, you're going to. I know that. I'm going to fail. And the idea here is not to fail bad. The idea is to fail small and learn something along the way. I want to thank you very much for stopping in today. It really means a lot to me for all of you to show up. Still, put your comments, concerns, questions, or what you'd like to hear me talk about next. Really do appreciate that. I have some great new ideas of people. They were asking me questions down in Palm Beach, Florida. And I'm going to put those on video and send them out to you. And I think everybody will have a great opportunity of seeing what this is all about. These other questions that I get on the road. So thank you very much. Have a blessed week. Loving you always. Jim Becker is out. Bye-bye.